Parece completamente inofensivo, mas é uma das ferramentas mais poderosas que a ciência alguma vez conheceu.
The genie is out of the bottle.
Cientistas por todo o mundo estão a dissecar os elementos básicos da vida, o nosso ADN.
This is the time to talk about it.
Pela primeira vez na história, poderíamos transformar todas as espécies do planeta para melhor.
We could get rid of malaria and tick-borne disease and all sorts of other incredible health problems.
Ou para pior.
What are we really doing? We're meddling about with nature's blueprint.
Are we ready to start stepping across a line?
De Beagles volumosos
There will be super leagues with super athletes.
à modelação de bebés.
You can write the ad copy, choose hair color, skin color, eye color. It's all natural, it's DNA.
As possibilidades são infinitas.
But whose voice is dictating what should be the design?
A engenharia genética pode salvar inúmeras vidas, mas como a iremos controlar?
There's a whole world out there. You don't know what they're doing.
Some boxes should be left closed.
It's happening.
Em Dallas, Texas, está a decorrer uma experiência revolucionária que poderá salvar milhões de vidas. Tudo começa com um voluntário chamado Ben Dupree.
I have a Duchenne muscular dystrophy. It's caused by a mutation or a problem in the dystrophin gene.
Dupree doou algumas das suas células a Eric Olson, que está a tentar corrigir o pequeno erro de ADN contido nelas.
Every cell in the human body has 6 billion letters of the DNA code. That's the number of letters in all the words in 1,000 Bibles. And think about one misspelled word in a stack of 1,000 Bibles due to one wrong letter. That one letter error can put a boy in a wheelchair.
My disease causes muscle weakness, along with breathing and eventually cardiac problems.
A doença tem vindo a deteriorar os músculos de Dupree desde que nasceu. Quando era mais novo, tinha dificuldades a andar. Aos 14 anos, estava numa cadeira de rodas.
All right, go on in here, hon. Let's get you situated.
Typically, death ensues in the mid-20s.
Ben Dupree tem agora 23 anos. Os músculos do coração estão em estado crítico. Sem uma cura, o coração deixará de bater.
This is one of the toughest diseases of mankind. It has defied everything that's been thrown at it.
Uma nova tecnologia poderá mudar tudo. Chama-se CRISPR.
CRISPR is like a spell checker for DNA. It has a two-component system. One component is like molecular scissors that can cut the DNA. The other component is like a GPS device for DNA. You can program the GPS device to deliver the scissors anywhere in the 6 billion letters of DNA. And as soon as the GPS device brings the scissors there, it will cut the DNA.
Poderá o CRISPR cortar a letra errada nas células de Ben Dupree?
Hey, Ben!
Está prestes a descobrir.
You could call Ben Dupree patient 0. Let me show you these cells, Ben. Those are Ben's heart muscle cells beating in a dish. And we have been able to correct your mutation in those cells using CRISPR.
I'm kind of at a loss for words.
When you sit face to face with a patient like Ben, and you can show that patient that these cells are now producing the protein that his body has never been able to make. Your work is touching humanity.
It's amazing to see these cells are basically cured.
It's surreal. It's so exciting.
Doesn't seem like it's too far off to start trying this on people.
I hope it's not too far off.
Yeah.
We're moving as quickly as we can.
It's kind of weird to think that the cells might live longer than I do.
are 7,000 diseases where we know the precise misspelling in the DNA. CRISPR provides an opportunity here we haven't had before. So we're all in a hurry now because we want to see that happen.
O potencial é enorme e vai muito além da cura de doenças. O CRISPR e outras tecnologias de manipulação genética podem literalmente moldar o nosso mundo. Num canto remoto da China rural, a portas fechadas, uma experiência sugere o que está por vir. 2.000 cães vivem aqui, criados para investigação médica. 2 deles foram geneticamente modificados para serem diferentes de todos os outros. O geneticista Liang Shuai veio ver as suas criações de laboratório. Lai removeu um gene chamado miostatina de embriões de beagle. O gene inibe o crescimento muscular.
CRISPR 对这2只狗进行了这个基因编辑。
Este é o Hércules. Tem o dobro da quantidade normal de massa muscular. Ao lado de um beagle normal, as diferenças são evidentes. Esta investigação pode ainda levar a novos tratamentos para doenças musculares em humanos. Mas os cães CRISPR têm outros usos. Podem ser criados para fins lucrativos.
这2只狗和别的狗不一样，是因为它比一般的狗肌肉更加发达，它们能够跑得更快，跳得更高。
We've had selective breeding for a long time, but it's different when we begin to shift genetic inheritance on a permanent basis.
Lai quer que Hércules e a sua pretendida Tiangu acasalem. Acredita que os seus cachorros também serão super beagles.
All of these things are unnatural. The science is here. The genie is out of the bottle. It's not going back in. So we are moving from natural selection to design.
When you see those beagles, you just know that if you're seeing these individual animals changing and morphing into super beagles, so to speak, next we could be having the same discussion with pictures of humans.
No mundo de AN, o potencial é óbvio. É especialista em medicina desportiva e médico em várias equipas profissionais.
Make no mistake, the CRISPR technology has been looked at by athletes, coaches, team owners, management organizations to enhance player performance. Okay, I'm going to flex up this way. Let me know if you feel any discomfort. No. Okay, good endpoint. Everybody wants to shout at the record. That makes your career, or you want to win the championship. And as consumers of sports, we want to see people run faster, jump higher. There could be the emergence of super leagues with super athletes.
Não são apenas os desportos profissionais ou os adultos. A tentação de obter uma vantagem competitiva pode vir a começar muito mais cedo.
The next sports legend syndrome is a phenomenon where parents really believe their 10-year-old is going to be the next sports legend, the next Gretzky. Sometimes those parents will stop at nothing.
Todos queremos o melhor para os nossos filhos. A manipulação genética abre um novo mundo de opções. John Zhang é uma estrela no mundo da fertilidade e tem a sua própria clínica de luxo em Manhattan. A sua investigação altera o ADN no seu estado mais inicial, quando o óvulo entra em contato com o esperma.
The application of this technology is limited only by our imagination.
Zhang desenvolveu uma técnica que combina o ADN de 2 mães e um pai para criar um bebê com 3 progenitores.
Let's say we have 2 mothers' eggs, just using chicken eggs as an example. As we know, chicken eggs have 2 parts, egg white and egg yolk. So you start with 2 parents who each give 1 egg. One give egg white, one give egg yolk. Then we get a 3rd parent's sperm. Now you have 3 parents' baby.
A clara do ovo alberga doenças hereditárias responsáveis por abortos e mortalidade infantil.
This technology potentially can stop or eliminate this mutated gene. Not only they can produce a healthy baby, it can potentially stop in the family trees. I think we should check the two. From this point on, we know human reproductive medicine is going to change forever.
In my family, there is some cases of cancer, and I'm wondering if the work that you're doing would allow me to prevent my future child from being susceptible to such cancers.
Certain type of the cancer already can be screened.
Once you open that door a crack, you get the parents who say, well, since we've invested this much money in making sure that our child doesn't have a higher risk of breast cancer, let's also choose whatever, hair color, skin color, eye color.
What are all of the possibilities that may be open to me in terms of your technology?
In the future, I think we can edit the child. For example, we really like to have an offspring which can be NBA player. I think the general public will utilize the design baby technology. So we can get all this editing and we put it together and we can have a design baby.
You can write the ad copy for the fertility clinics. You must act now. Give your child the best start in life. It's all natural, it's DNA.
If you have resources to obtain the most cutting-edge technology in the world, this will lead to a separation between the haves and the have-nots.
Imagine a world in which wealthy parents purchased expensive genetic upgrades for their children. It's really a science fiction nightmare.
But we are trying to design ourselves all the time. Why do you think we go to plastic surgeon? Why do you think we go to beauty salon? Why do you think we're doing prenatal screen? We're trying to prevent all these abnormal genes to inherit to next generation. So why can't we just fix the gene? Why we only can select and throw them away? Why can't we fix it?
We're taking DNA-based evolution into our own hands, if you want to put a fine point on it. But I think it's all part of cultural and technological evolution. I think we've always been radical engineers. I mean, I think the person who came up with the invention of fire was probably a very radical technology at the time, and it was potentially quite hazardous as well.
Os riscos da engenharia genética não são tão fáceis de detectar. O que estamos exatamente a arriscar quando modificamos o nosso próprio ADN? Com o CRISPR, existem ainda muitas incógnitas.
What if these molecular scissors accidentally go to the wrong place in the genome and cut a gene that you need? Another challenge is that the technology is based on a bacterial protein that's foreign to the human body. What if the immune system mounts a response to try to reject this bacterial protein that's been introduced into it?
E quanto ao ADN em si, saberemos realmente o suficiente sobre o funcionamento dos nossos genes? Só porque os podemos cortar não significa que o devamos fazer.
There are genes that have been discovered 30, 40 years ago, and we still don't know what they do. It's kind of like a human being. Like, we don't just stay in our bedroom. We have a job, we interact with other people. And so if you remove any one gene, you're impacting all those other avenues. And if we go snipping and cutting it, then what are we doing?
Apesar destas questões, a investigação continua. Pablo Ross tenta algo completamente diferente. Mistura o ADN de humanos com o de animais de quintas. O seu objetivo é criar órgãos humanos dentro de porcos.
Being able to generate human organs in an animal has the potential to save millions of lives. These pigs, just regular pigs that nowadays are being grown to provide meat and bacon for breakfast, could also provide life-saving organs.
Os órgãos seriam feitos à medida, gerados a partir das nossas próprias células estaminais. Começa por injetar algumas células estaminais humanas no embrião do porco.
Here we have the embryos. We also put some human cells that are the small dots on the screen. So I'm going to pick up some cells. We're going to use a laser to make a hole in this shell, because otherwise I cannot go into the embryo. We can put the cells in there. And that's it. Then we just introduce some of these human cells into the embryo.
What I've seen with emerging genetic technologies is there's an increasing amount of putting things in here and putting things in this species and that species. And we need to make some decisions about what it is we're willing to accept and what we're not.
A incubadora de Ross contém dezenas de milhares de embriões injetados. Cultiva-os durante uma semana e depois verifica se as células humanas se dividiram. As células humanas têm marcadores fluorescentes. E aqui estão elas, a vermelho, e a aumentar em número. Isto nunca foi feito antes.
The first time for me that just by looking at the fluorescence of the embryo, you could tell that those are human cells that had contributed to the development of this embryo. So it was pretty exciting, I would say.
Num futuro idealizado por Ross, a criação de animais levará a uma oferta infinita de corações, fígados, pulmões e pâncreas humanos. Se parece algo saído de um romance de ficção científica, é porque realmente é.
In 2001, when I started writing the book, the pigoon, it was an imaginary thing. It's a nickname for the larger than normal pigs in my novel, growing multiple kidneys and livers were transplanted to human beings. But now that we have CRISPR, this is now something that is happening. In my book, they have also grown some human brain tissue in the pigs. Maybe not such a hot idea, since pigs are very smart anyway.
What are we really doing? We're meddling about with nature's blueprint, and I don't know that we ethically should be doing that.
As tecnologias genéticas estão a transformar o nosso mundo. E isto não se passa apenas nos laboratórios. Em Oakland, Califórnia, situa-se o primeiro retalhista de CRISPR do mundo.
We are shipping out orders to people who have purchased our kits from our website.
These are CRISPR and other genetic engineering kits that will let people genetically modify organisms in their home.
Os kits permitem às pessoas brincar com o ADN, inserindo um gene de uma alforreca em bactérias, por exemplo, para fazê-las brilhar. Temos também sapos geneticamente modificados.
We're about to inject some frogs.
Faz tudo parte de um crescente movimento de bricolagem de genética, maioritariamente composto por jovens que se identificam como biohackers. Josiah Zayner está na linha da frente.
My goal and the goal of my company, the Odin, is like, let's make things open. Let's make things accessible. All these people who say, well, gene editing is only going to be available to people who can afford it, we're saying, no, it's not.
O seu kit inicial está à venda por $159.
Last year we made like $500,000, and this year, we're still growing. We're probably going to make a lot more.
Além dos piercings, Zayner tem um doutoramento em bioquímica. Mas muitos dos seus clientes não têm nenhuma formação científica.
I remember reading one of the first papers on CRISPR, and it's like the scientists were trying so hard to make it as obscure and complicated as possible. And I was like, whoa, it's pretty simple.
O êxito de Zayner levanta questões. Será que devia existir regulamentação? Se sim, como?
We don't want to democratize guns by passing out AR-15s to school children. We want rules of the road in place, and the same is true with powerful technologies like gene editing.
I'm packing up the E. coli, which is the host organism of where the CRISPR-Cas9 takes place in.
It is now entirely possible to genetically engineer, for instance, a disease for which nobody has any cure.
It's getting easier, it's more accessible. That's the true challenge.
O governo dos Estados Unidos está tão preocupado com a manipulação genética que criou uma unidade no FBI para descobrir o que está a ser cortado e unido por trás de todas as portas fechadas.
In 2016, there was a U.S. intelligence report that equated gene editing with a weapon of mass destruction. It is an indication of how powerful biotechnology has become. But how do you prevent the misuse and the exploitation of a powerful tool?
Come on, you guys, hurry up.
I'm sure when the first person made electricity, they're like, why do we need something else than candles? Electricity kills people. Like, candles are cool, man. And now it's like, nobody even thinks about it. Like, you don't think about being shocked. We're always afraid about unknowns, but I don't think that's a reason not to do it.
Planes are okay, but driving planes into big buildings is a bad idea. Sometimes when you don't understand things, you try to regulate the technology, but what you should be regulating is the outcome.
The moment when finally the baby was delivered in my arm, and the feeling is, it is amazing. It's brilliant.
O primeiro bebê de John Zhang, com 3 progenitores, também levanta questões. Os progenitores escolheram permanecer anónimos. E ainda se desconhece quanto a investigação relacionada com a criança será realizada no futuro.
With these new technologies, we simply don't know what we don't know. And that, in and of itself, is a risk.
This has been an intense ethical debate about, are we crossing a line there that certainly is not something that would happen in nature? Is it safe? That would be a good thing to know.
As tecnologias genéticas estão a avançar tão rapidamente que os governos se esforçam para tentar acompanhá-las. Nos Estados Unidos é legal alterar um embrião humano em laboratório, mas é ilegal implantá-lo num paciente. Por isso, Zhang viajou para Sul para poder criar o seu bebê com 3 progenitores.
Dr. Zhang went to Mexico to implant the embryo because he said there were no rules there. It's not okay to flout the rules of your own country. Dr. Zhang is willing to do that. I think he's dead wrong and should be condemned for it.
Zhang mantém-se determinado. Agora oferece os seus serviços numa clínica na Ucrânia.
We are carefully selecting the patient, and we are actively engaged with the clinical trial in Ukraine. And in a few months, I hope I can share some good news with you all.
E há mais bebés com 3 progenitores a caminho. O Reino Unido aprovou a utilização de uma técnica semelhante à de Zhang em mulheres com doenças do mesmo género.
There's no world government. So how are these decisions going to be made and who's going to make them?
The science has gotten way ahead of any form of legislation. And anyway, how would you police that?
If we have countries competing to develop a technology because it's a technical advance, that's not the kind of competition between countries that is going to benefit humanity.
I think the most likely people to go rogue will be American billionaires.
We saw what happened in Prohibition. Alcohol verboten. People made it in their bathtubs. When the tools exist and when there's a will, there's all sorts of ways people get around things.
I'm Tristan Roberts. I have had HIV for around 5 or 6 years. I'm excited about the possibility of potentially curing this, maybe for a few months, maybe for a few years, maybe indefinitely, but there's only one way to find out. I lost my health insurance through Washington State because they said I wasn't a resident. I didn't have enough money, and it's just like, yeah, you're a citizen, but if you don't have a house, you're not really a citizen in this country.
A medicação poderia controlar o seu VIH, mas Roberts quer uma cura.
I'm afraid of giving it to anybody. The barrier that I feel between other people, it's like the expression in my physical love could potentially kill somebody. And yeah, that weighs heavily, for sure.
Tristan Roberts is completely within his rights, according to the FDA and the rule of law in this nation, to self-experiment in any way that he deems medically appropriate.
And this, of course,
Nem Tristan Roberts nem os seus amigos são cientistas ou médicos. São biohackers que inventaram uma terapia genética caseira. Não foi criada com kit CRISPR, mas mesmo assim dá que pensar até a Josiah Zana.
I get this thing that pops up on Facebook, and I was like, what? Like somebody's going to do a Facebook Live gene therapy injection? That's crazy.
O que Roberts está a fazer não é abrangido por lei alguma. A FDA proíbe a venda de tratamentos que não cumpram protocolos rigorosos de teste, mas Roberts não está a vender. Está a conduzir experiências nele próprio.
You're genetically modifying yourself today to be immune to HIV.
Imagine some biohacker who really doesn't understand, contamination, how to notice it, how to test for it, is injecting themselves with stuff that they make in their house or garage. And the possibility to get pretty hurt is significant.
That isn't going to work. You haven't thought this through. You haven't actually even read the literature to know what is necessary if you're going to have any hopes of this being useful. This is complicated stuff. It isn't like, just writing the latest app for your iPhone.
What do your medical doctors think of you doing this?
Do they?
Yeah, I haven't talked to them.
As novas tecnologias deram-nos um poder sem precedentes para manipular o ADN. E não falamos apenas de genes humanos. Todo o mundo natural pode agora ser manipulado.
I think there are much bigger problems than what human beings are doing to human beings. The big question to me is, what are we doing to other life forms?
CRISPR opened the floodgates to modifying the genomes of everything. This is a tidal wave of technology that is going to consume and touch every aspect of biology.
Kevin Esvelt abriu esta porta com uma ideia tão poderosa que a ciência ainda está coletivamente a recuperar o fogo.
I was walking through a park, looking at all the different organisms. I saw a turtle that day in the water. And I wondered, are any of these ever going to be edited? If we were to edit that turtle, then it wouldn't reproduce as well as the wild turtles. But then I thought, well, wait a minute. What if we, instead of editing the genome, we teach the genome how to do genome editing on its own?
Chama-se gene condutor. E consiste em muito mais do que apenas cortar o ADN. Dá aos animais um conjunto de instruções genéticas para que os seus genomas se possam manipular a si mesmos e aos genes descendentes. Agora, o ser humano tem a capacidade de mudar o rumo da evolução.
Wouldn't it be lovely if we could tweak mosquitoes so they don't spread disease?
A questão-chave do gene condutor é que ele se autorreplica. O mosquito manipulado irá sempre transmitir o gene alterado aos seus descendentes. Mesmo que acasale com um mosquito normal, a próxima geração irá herdar o novo gene e por aí fora, até que o novo gene se alastre por toda a população.
No one had imagined that we would be able to edit entire wild species. That concept was absent, even from science fiction. We could get rid of malaria and tick-borne disease and all sorts of other incredible health problems.
E tudo poderá começar aqui, ao largo da costa do Atlântico, na ilha de Martha's Vineyard.
It's paradise, except for the ticks. This little tiny, nasty little bug is gonna infect the whole world. My 4 brothers and a sister, and my mother and father, and my wife, she's had Lyme disease like 3 or 4 times.
Todos os verões, além dos turistas, chegam também as carraças, prontas para uma refeição de sangue.
They're everywhere. They love to hang out in the beach grass just as people are coming through. And so it's all done stealthily, surreptitiously. You can't feel the tick bite. They actually rest waiting for something hot to come by, and then they jump, and then they dig in, and then they start sucking.
As carraças transmitem mais de uma dúzia de doenças. A mais comum é Lyme.
Relax. Take happy thought.
You can be 2 months old, or you can be 98 years old, and if the tick gets on you for a blood feast, then you can have Lyme disease. And so how are you doing in general?
I'm having a harder and harder time walking.
Yeah.
Todos os anos, 300.000 americanos são infectados com a doença de Lyme.
Come in and it would be something that was so tiny I couldn't even see it. Makes me lie on the floor gasping for breath and almost kills me. I'd love to see Lyme disease eradicated. Good luck on it, though. I mean, what a monumental task.
A equipa de Asfeld está a postos para tentar. O seu alvo não é a carraça. É o rato de pata branca, o principal portador da doença de Lyme.
I think there's a mouse in there.
Os ratos transmitem-na para as carraças, que por sua vez a transmitem para nós.
Yep, look at that.
Asfeld quer criar ratos livres de doenças em laboratório, para depois os libertar e deixar o gene condutor fazer o resto do trabalho.
If you talk to people who are suffering from Lyme disease, you want to do something about it. But there are people on the island who say, well, you don't know what you're doing. This is Frankenmouse. He's going to, you know, could become a monster. What's going to happen when they get out in the wild? We'll see. I don't know.
Frankenratos a leste. Frankenporcos a oeste. Na Califórnia, Pablo Ross faz avanços. Implantou os seus embriões geneticamente modificados em porcas.
We transfer 40 to 50 embryos in each pig with the hope that we're going to obtain, 10 to 15 fetuses from them. And there is one right here. And so that one is pregnant. Very exciting.
Os embriões crescem até aos 28 dias. Depois, verifica se as células humanas sobreviveram. A evolução não o permitiria. Mas a engenharia, sim. As manchas brancas fluorescentes são todas ADN humano.
What are we creating? What sort of porcine characteristics might creep into the human who's being treated with a heart grown inside a pig?
People who aren't in my situation, they would not understand.
Tracy Mills esperou 4 anos por rim.
For me to have the transplant, it would save my life. It came from a pig, I don't care. Give it to me. It came from a cow, so what? Give me that organ. I want the kidney.
Os órgãos cultivados nos porcos ainda não estão prontos. Ross não deixa os embriões passarem dos 28 dias.
We are stopping early in case some unexpected things happen with the human cells in these early embryos. What if the human cells give these embryos a human characteristic? Like if they go to the brain and they increase the intelligence of the animal, or let's say they make 5 fingers instead of 2. We don't expect that's going to happen, but we do have to determine and measure that, because that could blur some of the lines of what it is to be human. Nobody wants a talking pig.
These unknown things involving animals, there's something quite terrifying to us about that. And I think it probably goes way back to our deep, deep, distant past, when you never knew what you might run into in the jungle.
Até agora, a mistura de ADN humano e animal era pura ficção. Mas o CRISPR está a torná-la uma realidade e com um número crescente de criaturas, incluindo outros primatas. A China é um autêntico centro de investigação genética em macacos. Já lhes introduziram genes humanos modificados no seu ADN, genes que causam doenças humanas. Investigadores ocidentais colaboram frequentemente, realizando as suas próprias experiências com estes macacos transgénicos.
China have better funding and the animal are less expensive. So I think the Chinese scientists and government seeing this is the opportunity to be the best. This is their chance. Everything comes down to money.
Xie Hua e Xiao Jiangli geram laboratórios de genética na China e na Emory University em Atlanta. Fizeram parte de uma equipa que criou o primeiro modelo de um macaco transgénico no mundo para a doença de Huntington, uma perturbação neurológica hereditária.
We found that the pathology in the monkey brain is just like human brain. So that was very exciting to see that kind of results.
Em 2008 foi revolucionário. Agora, com o CRISPR, são transmitidas aos primatas todo o tipo de perturbações neurológicas. Aqui estão a observar o cérebro de macaco com Parkinson. Estes macacos nasceram com um gene humano associado ao autismo. Os seus progenitores também tinham o gene e eles herdaram-no. Têm um desenvolvimento mais retardado e são menos sociais do que os seus colegas.
The thinking, feeling beings have their own personality. They're really highly social creatures. I am ethically so against doing it.
The monkeys are very similar to humans. They have the feeling, emotions. You can tell, right? Because of this, the monkey can mimic some very important human diseases like depression, like schizophrenia. We cannot use mice.
Em 2018, investigadores chineses clonaram macacos. A clonagem, juntamente com o CRISPR, irá permitir aos investigadores um sem número de primatas idênticos com mutações genéticas humanas modificadas nos seus cérebros.
When you start doing brain cells, there's so much that we don't know. Could there be some potential for some element of consciousness that's human in a non-human animal? What would the moral status be of that animal?
Mas a história moderna demonstra que novas tecnologias surpreendentes passam rapidamente de moda.
The same concerns have been raised before, for example, when test tube babies were first made. Is this blurring the line of what it is to be human if we can make a human in a lab? And nowadays, it's widely acceptable.
So much of what's happening in genetics is being pushed to the future. You know, it's coming, but we're not there. And that's often what you hear in science. What I would say to that is this is the turning point. Yes, the final details are still ahead of us, but the turning point is now.
Em Martha's Vineyard, o objetivo não é o macaco, mas o rato de pés brancos. A equipa de Kevin Esvelt está a tentar desenvolver uma solução em ratos.
So I've got to grab them gently by the leg and put them on the ear.
Descobriu-se que uma pequena percentagem de ratos de patas brancas é geneticamente imune à doença de Lyme. Ao apanhar a carraça, não ficam infectados.
I discovered the mechanism of action of immunity against Lyme disease with this OspA protein.
We can, using CRISPR, insert that DNA into the reproductive cells of mice so that their offspring will inherit that immunity.
Se tudo der certo, centenas de milhares de ratos CRISPR serão libertados para a natureza para acasalarem com a população selvagem.
I have no qualms about changing a species. We've been modifying nature ever since we've known how to do it. We've selected for dogs with short faces, plants that give us more food, and Kevin is simply being the agent of selection.
When you're in the rainforest, you absolutely get the feeling of the interconnectedness of all life, where every single species, no matter how insignificant it seems, can actually be playing a very important part. And now we want to mess about with the genetics of species before we really even understand the complex nature of the ecosystem itself.
Esvelt sabe que há muito em jogo e quer que todos os ilhéus também o saibam. Ele considera a consciencialização da comunidade a parte mais importante do seu trabalho.
But that
give mice an ecological advantage? And like, what problems would that cause in like the environment?
It's a great point, and that's sort of the number one concern when you're thinking about engineering something for the wild. And as far as we know, the answer is no.
So when I first told my mom, we want to release these mice onto the island, first, she was like, there's no way. But then I told her all of the key points and how it wouldn't be dangerous. And then she was excited about it. So I think when it comes from the kids, I think that's also important.
I think it's more important coming from you than it is coming from us. I don't think we have the moral right to do this kind of research in the traditional, closeted way.
If at any point the community says stop, that's it. Project stops, we walk away.
Speaking as someone who invents new technologies and is terrified of things going wrong, I appreciate all of you keeping an eye on us. You are in charge of this project because you're the people who live here. I am responsible for whatever comes of CRISPR-based gene drive. And that is tremendously challenging because we can't always anticipate what those consequences will be.
Every human tool has a good thing you can do with it, a bad thing you can do with it, and it's something that you didn't anticipate that people end up doing with it.
À medida que a notícia se espalha e sem regulamentação em vigor, as pessoas encontrarão as suas próprias razões para dar uma hipótese à manipulação genética.
So I know why most people come see me. You're coming to see me because you're interested in talking about having a baby. So why don't you tell me your stories?
Scott and I met each other about 13 years ago. We worked in the same office. We started dating. We fell in love.
And then we met Chloe. Her and I were working very closely together and immediately became friends. And over time, this whole thing organically happened.
We just feel that creating a child with all three of our DNA could just complete the family and make it whole.
And so we're just kind of curious to see if that would be able to work, and if so, how.
We're hearing about this type of technology called three-parent IVF, and I joke and I say it's not an orgy, people. Right? It's not. As soon as people hear that, they think that it's something sexual and there's three people in a room. No, it isn't. From a technical standpoint, that is something that theoretically is possible. But three-parent IVF is used to literally cure extremely debilitating diseases. The critics, I can just hear them talking right now, would say, you have three selfish adults. This is completely elective.
Right.
Like, no one needs this.
And that is a little frustrating because we are three consenting adults, and that's a lot of what it should be about.
The fact that we're all here and committed and wanting to give love to a child should be all that matters.
One of the things that we're seeing in society is that there's more and more genetic information available to women and families. We're beginning to see this might be associated with this. This could be associated with autism. This could be associated with something else.
Our son was diagnosed when he was 5 with high-functioning autism, and so we're wondering what the possibility of screening for that is, just so that we can make sure that any child that we bring in would have less of a chance. And also, is it a possibility to like pick and choose characteristics of, like, say, Chloe's eyes or my hair or his
metabolism,
his metabolism kind of thing? Like, is that going to be a possibility at all?
The question is becoming not just do you want to have a child, but it's slowly morphing into what kind of a child do you want to have? The line between what's a medical situation and what's just a physical characteristic can be blurred quite easily.
Once the tools are there, people will play with them.
There's a lot of couple-oriented stuff here.
Most people who are looking at this are couples. I don't think you run into too many.
No, that's true. But I don't know.
I imagine that there are hundreds of other people that are talking about this around their kitchen table. The fact that they're even asking the question, let me tell you, we need to start coming up with these answers as a society.
This is the time to talk about it. The present penetrates the future, and that is why we have to make decent decisions now.
Where is the umbrella of thoughtful oversight that we need to be sure these wonderful new developments, which are incredibly promising for healing terrible diseases, don't get misused in a way that makes us all regret having had that skill in the first place.
Sem acordos internacionais vinculativos sobre manipulação genética, cada país se adapta à sua maneira. o que acaba numa confusão de leis.
Canada does have laws on their books. You can use gene editing to treat people who are sick. You cannot use it to alter the traits of future human beings.
This isn't going away. It's not really something you can stop, and we're going to have to come to terms with how do we do this in a way that is ethical.
A terapia genética caseira de Tristan Roberts captou a atenção de muitos por todo o mundo, mas não curou o seu VIH. Felizmente, também não o prejudicou. Está agora a decidir se deverá injetar-se outra vez.
People already have access to this stuff. Arguing over whether people can and should do it is pointless. We should figure out, how do we help people do it safe? How do we make it available in a manner that's effective and doesn't hurt people?
Eric Olson terá de superar diversos obstáculos regulatórios até conseguir levar a cabo ensaios clínicos para testar a segurança da sua terapia CRISPR. Já curou a distrofia muscular de Duchenne em cães. Mas um cão não é uma pessoa.
Not a day goes by when I don't receive an email or a letter from a desperate mother or family from somewhere, any corner of the earth. There's so much hope, there's so much desperation. The letters typically say, Dr. Olson, please work harder. We're working against the clock. We know where this is headed. The reality is, it's not likely that Ben will see the benefits of this technology in his own body. It will still take us a few more years to bring this to the finish line.
Olson vê um futuro onde nenhuma criança terá de lidar com os efeitos de distrofias musculares.
I have worked my entire career on muscle disease, but I have never been more optimistic about anything than I have been about CRISPR.
The impact of CRISPR could be huge in bringing us great benefits, but it also could be huge in bringing us into a world that we really don't want to live in.
We're essentially changing the human story right at this very point.
What's the worst thing that's going to happen? Let's think. People are going to be cured of diseases. That sucks. People are just going to be really healthy and really athletic and really attractive. And it's like, is that bad? I don't know.
Are private corporations going to be offering design your baby services? Unless that's outlawed, yes.
Who's determining what's the best human trait? Is it someone that's blue-eyed, someone that's brown-eyed, someone with dark hair, someone with black hair?
What I'm concerned about is not so much our hair color, but our neurodiversity. There would be a great tendency to have everybody behave the same way, to cut off the extremes where actually many of our most creative and most productive individuals come from.
Who's going to make those determinations? Who is the God with all-seeing wisdom?
In a way, I think we're not playing God. We are helping God. Sometimes God is too busy.
Asfeld, numa abordagem prudente à sua tecnologia de genes condutores, está agora a desenvolver uma espécie de botão de anular para o caso das coisas correrem mal com a natureza. Enquanto não estiver pronto, pede aos cientistas para que não usem a sua própria criação.
Some boxes should be left closed.
Some boxes should stay closed, but you do not have the power to determine who can or cannot open that box. There's a whole world out there. You don't know what they're doing.
And what keeps me up at night is the question of what's next. The future of our civilization will primarily be determined by the technologies that we invent and the wisdom with which we choose to use them. More than technological power, it is wisdom that we need.